Ever get that feeling like there's more to, well, everything than we usually see?
It's like we're always scratching the surface.
Exactly. And today we're going deep with Thomas Gauthier, someone who not only gets that, but seems to live in that space.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Gauthier, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who blends, like, art and technology.
And don't forget a touch of spirituality, too.
Right. It's what makes his work so fascinating. He doesn't just dabble in each of these things. He's looking for the threads that connect them all.
And the best part is he explores these ideas in so many ways. Blog posts, podcasts, even an ebook. So we've got a lot to unpack today.
Yeah, we're really going to get into his head with this deep dive.
But let's start with his blog, shall we? It's a gold mine of thought-provoking stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's like getting a window into how his mind works,
Okay, so 2 of his posts really got me thinking. And get this, they were originally in Spanish. Adds another layer to it, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. I always love when we get a glimpse into someone's thinking in their native language, So what were the posts?
The first one is titled, Ayer estaba aburrido, which translates to...
Hold on, let me see if I remember my high school Spanish. Yesterday I was...
bored.
Bored? Okay, I see where you're going with this. Betty has a more interesting take on boredom than most.
You already know it. Gauthier connects boredom to how we're constantly bombarded with stimulation these days.
Right. Always on, always connected.
Exactly. And Gauthier is saying that need to be constantly entertained, productive even, can actually stifle our creativity.
It's like he's saying boredom isn't the enemy, it's an invitation.
Yes. An invitation to tap into something deeper. Okay, ready for the second blog post. This one's called Robert Spearman.
Okay, Robert Spearman. Intriguing title. What's the connection to boredom?
Well, not a direct connection, but it builds on this idea of looking inward. Robert Spearman represents these recurring thoughts we all have.
Oh, you mean like those thoughts that pop into your head at the most random times?
Precisely. Mine usually involve some embarrassing childhood memory.
Oh, tell me about it. I have this one where I tripped and...
Or that imaginary argument I'm always winning in my head,
Okay, I get it. We all have those. But what's Gauthier's take on them? Just random noise.
That's what I thought at first, but no. He sees these recurring thoughts as more than just meaningless chatter.
Okay, I'm intrigued. He thinks they're trying to tell us something.
Exactly. Something about ourselves, our fears, our desires, maybe even some hidden potential we haven't tapped into yet.
So it's not just about what the thoughts are, but the fact that we have them in the first place.
And how we react to them, right. Instead of just trying to shut them down, maybe there's something to learn from paying attention to them.
I like that. Paying attention to the whispers of our own mind.
Exactly. It's like Gauthier is encouraging us to explore their subtle, often overlooked aspects of our inner world, because that's where the good stuff is hidden.
And that's just his blog. We haven't even touched on his podcast yet.
You know, it's wild to me how Gauthier can go from something as, simple as boredom to unpacking the future of work.
Right. Big jump.
Which, speaking of, is what he does in an episode of the Bulick podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, you familiar?
Definitely. It's the one, hold on, what was it called? The Future of Work, the Mind, and its Design.
That's the one. And this podcast is all about getting to the why behind things.
Which is kind of our thing, too, when you think about it.
Exactly. So what's the why when it comes to the future of work, according to Gauthier?
Well, he talks about how we tend to think of technology as something separate from us, something that just happens to us.
Which is definitely how it feels sometimes, right?
Totally. But Gauthier says we shouldn't just be adapting to technology, but actively shaping it to enhance, our own minds.
Wait, so he's saying we should be designing technology to make us think better?
That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And he gives some pretty wild examples, like using augmented reality, not just for games, but for learning.
Okay, now that's something I can get behind. How does that work?
Imagine, instead of reading about history, you're walking through a 3D recreation of, ancient Rome. Or instead of just diagrams in a science textbook, you're interacting with virtual models of atoms and molecules.
So we're talking about totally immersive learning experiences designed to tap into how our brains are naturally wired.
Precisely. And Gauthier believes that kind of approach could revolutionize education and problem solving as a whole.
Wow, okay, so from boredom to designing our own minds, this is quite the deep dive.
Tell me about it. And we haven't even gotten to his See Millennium podcast appearance yet.
Yeah.
Which is a bit more down to earth, focusing on work-life balance.
Right, I was going to bring that up. Seems a bit more relatable than, redesigning our minds with technology.
True. But even there, Gauthier finds a way to tie it back to these bigger themes, especially finding meaning in what we do.
Because work-life balance isn't just about clocking in and out, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where work doesn't feel like a chore, but like an extension of your passions and values.
So it's less about rigidly separating the two and more about finding a way for them to coexist.
Exactly. And recognizing that work, when it's aligned with our purpose, can actually bring us joy and fulfillment.
Okay, that's a really refreshing way to think about it. But, I'm noticing a common thread through all of these seemingly different topics: boredom, technology, work-life balance.
Yeah. What's the connection? What are we missing?
It's like Gauthier's encouraging us to be more mindful, more aware of our thoughts, our motivations.
To really examine how we're showing up in the world.
Exactly. And that brings us to his ebook, Sar Virtual, or in English, To Be Virtual.
Oh, here we go. This is where it gets really deep.
Okay, I have to be honest. That title, To Be Virtual, is intriguing, but kind of intimidating,
I totally get it. It's like, whoa, deep thoughts coming. But that's what Gauthier does. He's not afraid to tackle the big questions.
Right. And he always starts with these simple but profound ideas: boredom, recurring thought.
And then, bam, he connects them to these huge concepts like technology, the future of work, even reality itself.
Exactly. So in Sir Virtual, he's going even deeper, huh? Trying to figure out what it means to exist when things are getting so blurry between the physical world and the digital world.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, are we all just living in a simulation like in the Matrix?
Huh. Well, he doesn't go quite that far, but he does want us to really think about what we consider real versus virtual.
Okay, I'm all ears because honestly, the lines are getting blurrier by the day, right?
Tell me about it. And get this, Gauthier argues that even our sense of self, our identity, is shaped by this mix of experiences, memories, and, all the digital stuff we consume.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's like, who are we without our online personas, our digital footprints? Right?
Exactly. And remember that quote you mentioned earlier about humans being illusions, duties, and cultural mandates alongside code and information?
Oh, yeah, that one really stuck with me. It seems so out there at first.
It's starting to click now, right? It's like he's saying we're not just flesh and blood anymore, but also information constantly changing based on what's happening in the digital world.
It's kind of mind-blowing, but also exciting in a way. Like we're constantly evolving, redefining ourselves, both on and offline.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's what makes Gauthier so relevant. He's not just talking about technology as this separate thing. He's talking about how it's fundamentally changing what it means to be human.
It's like he's saying, hey, pay attention, because this is the world we're creating.
And more importantly, he's encouraging us to take an active role in shaping that future, not just sitting back and watching it happen.
Which is a powerful message, especially with how fast things are changing.
Absolutely. So we covered a lot today. Boredom, the future of work, even the nature of reality itself. If someone wanted to dive deeper into Gauthier's work, where would you suggest they start?
Honestly, anywhere is a good place. But his blog is always a great entry point because he's constantly writing new stuff,
Perfect. We'll definitely link to that in the show notes. And for those listening who might be feeling a little overwhelmed right now, what's one Gauthierism they can take away from all of this?
That's a good one. I think the biggest takeaway is, in a world obsessed with efficiency, with always doing more, the most radical thing we can do is embrace those moments when our minds are free to wander.
You mean like boredom, those times when we're not really doing anything productive?
Exactly. Because in those moments, when we're not forcing it, that's often when the most unexpected insights come to us.
So next time you catch yourself daydreaming or staring out the window, don't beat yourself up about it.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace the curiosity. You never know where it might lead.
Great advice to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the mind of Thomas Gautier. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds open.